Good afternoon, everyone. The topic today will be how the Sûreté du Québec investigates cybercrime in 2020. So I'm going to start off with my bio. First off, my name is Marc Piche. I'm a team leader at the Division des enquêtes sur la cybercriminalité. The short name we use for this unit is DCIB, and to shorten that up, I'll use this term in the following presentation. So each time I'm referring to DCIB, I'm referring to the Cybercrime Investigation Unit of the Sûreté du Québec. Just a quick bio. I'm a team leader at the CIB since 2017. Before that, I was an investigator and interim team leader at the Division Technologique at the Sûreté du Québec also. Division Technologique is basically the tech crime unit of the Sûreté du Québec. So they conduct searches and they search for computers and electronic devices and analyze electronic devices and do computer forensics on them. So that was my prior background to this job. As for academics, I received since 2012 comprehensive training at the Canadian Police College in cybercrime investigations, computer forensics, and child exploitation investigations. And I'm currently an undergrad student at the Université du Québec at Trois-Rivières, which is affiliated with the Quebec's National Police School in a public safety program. So today for the presentation, we're going to discuss three main topics. The first one will give you a little background on Quebec's law enforcement agencies and how they treat cybercrimes and cybercrime investigations. Then we'll take a closer look at the Sûreté du Québec Cybercrime Investigation Division and its 4 different mandates. And finally, I will be diving into a recent investigation we've made to give you insight on what it implies to investigate a cybercrime. So, Quebec's law enforcement agencies. So the Police Act in Quebec states the level of service required by police agencies based on their population. So the bigger the population, the more services a police agency must give to their citizens. It's split in levels. So there are 6 main levels, and the more population it has, the more level, the higher the level of police service is, and the more service it needs to give its citizens. So there are 30 different municipal police agencies in Quebec, and then there's the Sûreté du Québec. So level 1 there's 7 police service, level 2 has 18, level 3 it's only Gatineau, Laval, and Longueuil. Level 4 is Quebec City, level 5 Montreal, and level 6 is the Sûreté du Québec. So for each criminal infraction, I'll get back there. For each criminal infraction or type of crime, it's classified to a specific level. So let's say that child exploitation cases is level 3. Only the police service level 3 and higher can investigate that type of crime. If this happens in a level 1 municipality, they need to transfer it to the Sûreté du Québec. Each time a municipality doesn't have the level of service required to investigate something, it goes to the Sûreté du Québec. So we don't want to go into the detail of each service level and what infraction or what service level, but in our particular case for cybercrime, all you need to know is most frauds are level 1, so they are generally investigated by the local police service where the infraction is made, and most of the other type of cybercrimes are level 3. So only the cities that you see there are allowed to investigate them. If it happens somewhere else, the Sûreté du Québec will take care of it. So the Sûreté du Québec operates similarly. There are different levels of investigators, and they take care of different levels of crimes. So there are local investigators. There are the investigators that are physically in the local police stations scattered around Quebec and the police stations of the Sûreté du Québec. If a crime is level 3 and higher, it's transferred to a major crime investigation unit. There are 3 major crime teams scattered across Quebec. So if the investigation is more serious, it bumps up to major crime. And if and there are specific specialized investigations units that have their own criteria of what they're taking care of. So we have financial crimes, homicide, contraband, organized crime, child exploitation investigation unit, and our cybercrime investigation unit. So how does law enforcement agencies define cybercrime? There's an understanding that you can divide cybercrime in 2 categories of criminal offense, at least for law enforcement definition of cybercrime. There are technology as an instrument cases and technology as a target cases. If you look historically, technology and as an instrument cases, police have been investigating those kind of cases for a while. If you look at online frauds, it's nothing new for financial crime unit. And as for child exploitation unit, the Sûreté du Québec and many other police agencies have been investigating them for years. But if you look at the other side of the spectrum, technology as a target, those malwares, botnets, hacking cases, that's fairly new for police agencies. They are just starting to adapt to this kind of new criminality, and they pose technological, human resources, and financial challenge on those agencies. That's why in 2016, the Sûreté du Québec decided to form a cybercrime investigation unit. So it's fairly new. And even then, it's the first dedicated cybercrime investigation team in Quebec that was formed. As of today, there are only 2 investigation units that specifically investigate cybercrime, Sûreté du Québec and the RCMP. No municipal service have a dedicated cybercrime investigation unit. Only Montreal has a unit that basically does assistance. They don't take cases and responsibility. They help their investigators in some part of the case. So we'll take a closer look into the DCIB. So we have 4 different mandates, and we'll develop them one at a time. So investigations, that's the first. That's what I was just talking about, taking responsibility of a case, so doing everything in the case from the start to the beginning. At the DCIB, we only take technology as a target cases. So if we look back at the diagram that we had earlier, we only take care of what you would see on the green part there. So those kind of cases. For the blue part, the technology as an instruments, they're mostly taken care of by existing specialized crime unit. The Sûreté du Québec had, like I said earlier, financial crime units for years, child exploitation investigations units, or they're taken care of by your major crime units usually. But the other spectrum, the green part, it's taken care of from start to beginning by our investigation team. The second part being investigation assistance. So we can't take care of every case file, though we want to help out the investigators that have on their desk a case that has a component of information technology. So in that case, we'll help them out. The patroller will take the initial complaint, and then it will be transferred to an investigator, and this investigator can call us and request assistance in this case for us to help him out the specific part of the case that has a link in the internet or technology. So it can be technology and as an insurance case that we saw earlier, but it can be as simple as a threat case that originated from a conversation on Facebook Messenger. So the assistance itself can imply many things. These are like the 5 main things we do to help out investigators all around Quebec in their cases. First part being telephone support. So they call our coordinators, and they just need some guidance. They need help writing warrants, writing appendixes. So it's a big part of our job just to give advice on different investigators that are not used to working those cases. What can I do to get this thing going? And I'm stuck. What can I do from there? The second part being emergency location service for missing persons. So though there are a lot of runaways, suicidals, and patrolmen call us and they need to find something. So especially for runaways, kids these days don't go far without their iPods connected to either Snapchat, Instagram, or TikTok. So if they connect to a Wi-Fi somewhere, we can make an emergency request in order to find those missing kids or person suicidals. Then there's online evidence retrieval. We can find the evidence an investigator needs online and then capture it for him to present it to the court later. There are virtual undercover operations. So we take virtual personas and interact with suspects online in order to gather evidence on an existing crime. And then there's online criminal intelligence. An investigator somewhere is investigating a suspect on this case, and he calls us and for us to check what's available online on this individual. How can I bonify my intelligence on this guy with what's online? Third part is cyber surveillance. We have a team that works around the clock in order to find criminal activities online, also security threats and person requiring assistance. So basically suicidals that post on social media, they would pick that up and send it to a team to intervene. We also do an initiation of cases. So it can take all kind of form. So the child exploitation unit can call us in order to find suspect that share child pornography online, or a contraband unit can ask us to detect people selling contraband cannabis over the internet. There are many type of examples that the investigation that we can start online and give to the investigation unit for them to follow up on the rest of the investigation. And the last part being coordination and training. Our investigators and coordinators are directly involved in the training of investigators all over the province. So we notably give the training in cybercrime investigation during every basic training course that is mandatory for every investigators of the province. So training takes a lot of our time. Also, we have national and international partnerships. We are part of Francopol, which is a training network for French police officers worldwide that was founded in 2008. It mainly benefits French-speaking, mainly in Africa. There are a lot of French-speaking communities, and we train police officers there. The Sûreté du Québec plays an active role in the cybercrime technical committee. At the same time as it gives us a lot of contacts to help us bring forward some fraud cases that the suspect is in Africa, which is really common. Also, NC3, there is a new federal entity that was created in this year. It became operational in April. So it's a coordination unit that the RCMP runs, and it's basically the big part of it is it allows us to deconflict. So let's say that we're investigating something, and an investigator in Alberta is investigating the same thing. In internet, you don't really know when you start where the suspect is. So they bring the confliction, and they help us out with intelligence too. and they give us access to their partners. Before it existed, we had to keep in touch with a lot of international partners. Now it's taken care of directly by the NC3, so it helps us out with many contacts to national partners in Canada and partners all around the globe, mainly Europol and American law enforcement. And lastly, we provide strategic counsel regarding cybercrime. Because of our involvement in the Francopole, we are part of ICANN, so we are in a public service safety working group. So we provide consultation on how the proposed changes of regulation on the internet can affect cybercrime and law enforcement investigating cybercrime. So that brings us to our case study. Like I said earlier, this is a real investigation that we completed earlier this year. It is currently pending trial, so we had to blank out some data. So it started in November 2018. CCCS, which is a federal entity, detected 2 new remote access Trojans hosted on the web. So those are malwares. The automatic malware analysis tools indicated them that the infected machines were communicating with a domain that was associated with an IP address that was in Quebec, hosted by Videotron. So in December, the FPCO, which was another federal unit, transferred the information to the SQ, because back then there were no RCMP cybercrime investigation team in Quebec. So first, we did some evidence gathering. The files were still hosted. They were hosted on a server in Russia. So we downloaded them and secured both files, so we could later sandbox them. Normally, when we cross something of a criminal nature on a domain, we can get judicial authorization to gather data on this domain or the hosting service. But as for Russia, we usually don't lose time with that because the response is not very good. Then we did some online intelligence on the information that we had. So what we had to start was very basic. We had the domain that was indicated on the report of the federal of the CCCS, the federal report, and the file hashes that were gathered. So first, for the intel, we took the domain and we searched on Virustotal, which is a malware database online, and we looked up what they had on this domain. So we searched the domain and the file hashes. So first we found out that the Wiz tool was from a domain registered in the US, so that's okay for us. That we saw that a bunch of malicious files were getting reported with the same domain in the past months. So if you look down there at the down of the slides, and there were 6 virus hashes in a matter of a little more than a month. So obviously this guy, the suspect behind these malwares had been experimenting stuff and getting those into the net, and they were getting reported by individuals on Virustotal. So it was interesting for us. We looked at each of the malware and file hash, and they were all very similar and mostly detected by antivirus. So relatively low level of complexity. So then we looked at the domain under Risk IQ to find out what this domain was assigned to and if it was stable in time. So Risk IQ provides us with a journalization of the assignation of the domain. It's another tool that's available online at a cost. We found out that the domain, it resolved to a single IP address for the length of the period of that the malware was available. So we blanked out over the last part of the IP, but it was an IP that was allocated by Videotron in the Montreal area. So that's very good for us. Their clients are usually residential, and Videotron is really quick in responding to judicial authorization. So for us, it's really easier that way. Then we did some sandboxing. So our unit specialist was tasked in putting the malware in a closed environment and report on what it does. So we found out that the malware file we're creating using a RAM Coast Rat server tool. So it's a paid software that is sold by a company. So the company is outside the country. That wouldn't be legal in Canada, but it's basically a remote access Trojan creation tools that permits you to do some screen captures, do some key logging on the infected machines, take a look at what files they have on. So there are a bunch of different functions there. So we were able to find that out very quick. Also, I'll just go back. Also, both malwares evolved to the domain in the report, and the key logging function of the remote access Trojans were triggered by financial keywords were entered. So you would get your usual credit card and stuff like that, but if you look into the bottom part, you really see some Canadian financial institutions, Bank of Montreal, CIBC, TD, RBC. So it really had a domestic part of it. Then we got the judicial authorization for Videotron. We could have tried the domain too, but being registered in the US, it might have required an MLAT, and that's not our first course of action when we have a Canadian provider. It's always easier and faster for us. So we took the Videotron way, and we quickly added an address that was obtained in Montreal. So we did some quick intelligence. We have the address there, but the goal was to do an house search. To do that, we need some intel on who lives there. The main reason is to assure the security of the police officers that are going to execute the search warrants. So if a crime lord sleeps on the couch every night at this address, we want to know about it before we knock on the door. We might change the plan if that's the case. So basically, we do surveillance. We make requests to public entities to find out who lives there and what are their habits in order to make our plan for the house search. So we got our search warrants for the address. It was conducted in the fall of 2019. Went really well. We seized 2 laptops. We found on-site personal banking and government documents of different people not residing at this address, and a point of service terminal and identity documents, including forged identity cards. And during the search, one of the computers was on the command and control interface of the Remco server software. So basically, we were at the right places, and the search went really well. Then we did an analysis of the seized goods. So basically the 2 laptops that were seized. So the same investigator that did the sandboxing looked at the seized laptops. He found out that over 1,500 computers were infected with malware between the fall of 2018 and the day of our house search. The suspect was using the keylogger and the screenshot features of the software. And the suspect used those to collect information of financial nature, such as credit card data, bank accounts, and passwords. So all of this was done in a matter of weeks after the house search. And at this point, we had all the proof we needed for all the cybercrime related infraction, like unauthorized use of a computer, sections of the code. So although what we found on the computer, we had a new problem on our hands. We weren't really prepared for the volume of financial data that was discovered. So we had to make sense of it. And our staff doesn't have specific training in financial crime investigation, so we had to dig out and learn on how to make sense of everything that was there. When we did some intel, we made a report to FinTrack, which it's a federal entity that the banks, when they spot some suspect transaction, they are legally required to report to FinTrack. So we made a request on our suspects at FinTrack to see financially what was going on around for him. And we got this report, which is blank. But basically, we learned that our suspect had bank accounts in 12 different financial institutions and many accounts on each one. And from 2014 to 2020, he had a flow of money of about $10 million. So we were talking about someone who lived at his parents' house, doesn't have any car, and doesn't work. At least he had no declared work. So definitely something was really fishy in it. So it took us more than a year to go through all the financial documents that were stored on his computers. At the end, we found out that the suspect created more than 80 companies with the identity of, with the stolen identities of victims of his malware. He created the companies without his victim knowing, and he created bank accounts that in different financial institutions too. The identity of one of those victims was used to commit a $1.6 million fraud against an American company. So luckily, this person didn't travel to the US before we found out about that, because he would have a nice travel. And we identified over 850 victims in our investigations and many credit card and bank account numbers. So at the end, one of our analysts made a graphic of all the evidence we found and how it was linked to the suspect. And the thing looked like that. You could zoom in and see everything. So what started as a really easy case, and all the way going to the house search, everything was really simple for us. After the search warrants, when we looked into the computer, everything became much more complicated on the police stand. So in conclusion, cybercrime are often multidisciplinary. So hackers commit infraction for a motive. When this motive is financial, it can get more complicated than the simple acts and criminal infractions related to what he was first doing. So in this case, 18 months investigation was made in a tip that was received in a 50-word email. So thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please reach out.